Well, the FIFA Club World Cup is just around the corner where 32 of the world's best teams will head to America to compete in the biggest staging of the tournament ever. Now, there is a 1 billion in prize money on offer too, with famous names like Bayern Munich, Boca Juniors, and Real Madrid all looking to be crowned the best team in the world. So, how is it being viewed in the United States, and how are the teams approaching this not new but also slightly new tournament? Felipe Cardenas is a senior writer at The Athletic covering international soccer/football, and he joins me now. Felipe, thanks so much for being with us on This Sporting Planet. First up, what were your initial reactions when you heard the announcement of this expanded FIFA Club World Cup tournament?
Well, I mean, as a fan of the sport, I was intrigued. I think as a journalist, you're skeptical because
Yeah.
you follow football and you follow soccer, you know that the calendar is so congested. The players at the elite level, at the highest level now, are playing more games than they ever have, and it's not going to slow down. So I think when they created the tournament, when FIFA created this tournament and put it in the summer of 25, there were a lot of questions like, is
Yeah.
this the right moment for it? You're a year away from a World Cup that's also going to be hosted in the United States. Is it a run up to that World Cup? Are the teams and the top players going to be really interested and play to their top level in a Club World Cup? So those are my initial thoughts. I still have a lot of those, but I've got to admit, I'm really looking forward to covering the tournament. I think it's going to be a fun one.
As Americans, we both understand that this is actually kind of a good time of the year. I don't say it's a dead time on the sports calendar, but you're not dealing with the NFL. The NBA's wrapped up. The NBA draft is wrapped up. It's kind of mid-season for Major League Baseball. Do you think American sports fans are taking notice of this tournament, which is now less than 2 weeks away?
I think the fans that are big soccer fans that follow the Premier League, that have their club, or even the countless, the thousands of millions of fans that follow Real Madrid or Manchester City, these big clubs that have big fan bases in the U.S. Anytime they come and play here for a summer friendly, they sell out. They sold out the big
Yeah.
house in Ann Arbor. I mean, it's pretty incredible what those teams draw. So I think those fans will be engaged. Is the casual fan interested? Is perhaps the fan that only follows international soccer, that is only a fan of the U.S. men's national team or the women's national team? Will they engage? Is pricing going to be at a point where more of the public can go and watch these games? And so, I think the casual fan may not know. I know FIFA has been doing a month-long campaign. I was here in Atlanta when Gianni Infantino, the president, was here, really promoting not just the tournament, but the concept of the tournament and explaining it's a Club World Cup. It's not a country World Cup. So I think there's going to be a learning curve in this inaugural one, but eventually I think if the teams show up and you get into the knockout rounds and it matters, people will engage.
Yeah, no question. There are now 3 MLS teams in the tournament, including Los Angeles FC, who only qualified this last weekend. You were at the match as they beat the Mexican side, Club America, in, I would say, dramatic fashion. Can you tell us what happened in that game and how much tension was there? Were you feeling like, wow, this is a big moment?
It felt like a big moment as soon as I got out of the Uber about 2 hours before kickoff and at BMO Stadium, and it smelled like carne asada. I could hear the ranchero music, and I saw the flags, and like the Club America fans were really there to support that club. They show up anytime they play.
Yes.
But LAFC really, to be there in person and to see that commitment from that fan base for such a big match. And it felt like the teams weren't getting along even outside the stadium. Like there was
Yeah.
tension, like, both teams have played each other before. So, I was impressed with not just the atmosphere, which was very, very good. But you mentioned it. The game was tense. It felt like a cup final. The players were really into it. And in the end, yeah, LAFC with a dramatic winner in extra time, and they are now the third MLS team going to this Club World Cup, and that's why it was such a significant win.
What were the celebrations like in the City of Angels for LAFC after that win?
It was cool. The first thing is that to see Steve Cherundolo, their coach, is
Yeah.
a former American international, really reserved and a laid back, sort of a quiet guy. And when Denny Bouanga, the French-born international, scored for LAFC, Cherundolo just, he lost it. Like emotionally, he was running down the sideline with his players. I later asked him in the press in the press room afterwards, was that out of character in a good way? Like we don't really see that happen. And he
Yeah.
just said it was raw emotion, and really that's what it meant to that club. And he even said it. We were skeptical when they got the invite or when they were being talked about being part of a playoff. And then I think leading up to that match, seeing the attention, and now what they're playing for an MLS team is just a big deal. So LAFC really happy to be there.
So they join Inter Miami and the Seattle Sounders for the U.S. teams in the tournament. In your mind, are they the best MLS teams to have in the competition?
I think they're some of the bigger brands, 100%. Obviously, with Inter Miami, you have Lionel Messi, and this summer is going to be interesting with him.
Yeah.
And can this club be? The depth isn't there for Inter Miami quite yet, and there is a right now pass the ball to Messi and see what happens. Sort of tactical identity to that team, but
Not a
he's
bad
on a tear right
strategy.
now.
Not a bad
It's not.
strategy.
It's not. It's not. And even when I said like 2 weeks ago, I'm like, oh, Messi's slowing down a bit. I think he's saving himself for the summer, and immediately he turned it on last week.
Yeah.
But the last 2 weeks, he's been the best player once again by universe in MLS. And so when he's really interested, I think Inter Miami's dangerous. They have a bit of a tough group right now, though. Like I think LAFC looks like they could be the surprise MLS team.
Yeah.
Seattle, well, defensively, they'll be at home in Seattle, which is
Right.
going to be a big
Lumen
advantage for
Field.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that place gets really serious for soccer. And the thing is, they're playing the European champions PSG in the first
Oof.
match at home, and they've got a really tough one. So those are big brands in MLS. I think they're the brands that you would want to see maybe in this inaugural World Cup, and we'll see which team does better if they can all get out of the group.
You've been around the sport for a long time, and you've covered it for a long time. Do you think we're going to see competitive matches between, say, some of the big European big hitters that you talked about, and some of the smaller teams that are just happy to be there?
Yeah, that's still the big question. I think the teams that are under the radar that perhaps have qualified through the Asian Federation or the African Federation, and certainly the South American clubs, they're viewing this tournament as a big moment for them. The South
Right.
American clubs who right now have, their ego as an all-time high. They are the confederation where the current World Cup champion Argentina resides. That is always a very interesting bit of a political and competitive battle with Europe. And so the South American clubs want to go there and win this tournament. They want to say, we've planted our flag. We're just as good as the top European teams. The smaller clubs, some of the Japanese clubs have had a huge send off in Tokyo recently for their club coming to this tournament. So that's like a huge sense of pride. Will the big teams, Real Madrid, Man City, PSG, who again, we just finished a European Cup final, winning the Champions League, do they have the legs, the energy, and the commitment to this tournament? The money's there. That's why FIFA has gone out of their way to make this a $1 billion tournament. So that is still, I think, a big question, Todd. In the early rounds, will we see rotation from these big clubs as they save themselves for the knockout rounds? And what will that look like in terms of competitive play?
We're chatting with Felipe Cardenas, a senior writer at The Athletic covering international soccer/football. I got to ask you this because I think it's a hot topic with everyone. Do you think there could be a gun for hire strategy with teams looking to bring on a big name just for this tournament? There's someone that's out there that's floating in between a contract. Is there an apparatus in place where you could go out and get someone and say, you know what, come play for us for 3 weeks. Here's $5 million and a chunk of if we win big, but just come in there and help us put some bums in the seats.
Yeah, interestingly enough, FIFA has created a separate transfer window right before this cup tournament begins, up until the day that it kicks off on June 14th. I think beginning this week now, clubs from around the world, participating clubs, even teams that aren't in the tournament, I believe, have an opportunity now to get in on this transfer market and strengthen their teams. But yes, there has been, which is interesting. I spoke to the FIFA Secretary General in Los Angeles, and he told me that the frenzy around these new transfers and this, maybe is Cristiano Ronaldo going to get a team,
Right.
or some of the South Americans moving for different players around South America. Like they liked that attention, and it wasn't intentional, I don't think, but it has created a bit of a buzz for the tournament with players moving around. Trent Alexander from Liverpool, the title winning Liverpool in the Premier League, he has moved on to Real Madrid, and Real Madrid said, we want you for this tournament, not when your contract officially ends and the signing
Right.
is complete. So they've paid over $10 million to get Trent Alexander to debut for Real Madrid at this tournament. So that has been a big, I think, an interesting rule change for the tournament. And if that also is successful, if you see teams moving and strengthening their teams and doing well, I think that's something that could stick around.
All right, now it's time to put you to the test, and this is why you get the big money, Felipe. You can draw on your luck of your Irish, your home college
Let's
team.
go.
Who do you like? How far? First question, two-part question. How far do the MLS teams go first? Which MLS team does the best?
Yeah, I think even in talking with executives around MLS, it'll be tough to find one that believes unanimously that all three teams are coming out. So I think Inter Miami has a good shot. They're opening at home. They're going to play in Miami at Hard Rock Cafe. I think it's a manageable group with an African champion, a Brazilian
Right.
club, and one European club. And so I'm going to say Inter Miami. They have Messi as well. And even though it's not Messi that can beat you on the burst and he's going to
Sure.
take you from midfield all the way to score, the guy is just. He's still an alien. He's not from this planet, I don't think, and he's still scoring at will. And so, if he can get on and at least get them out of the group and keep the interest there for the MLS sides, I think that's going to be a big story. So, I'll go with Inter Miami.
All right, absolute magician. I agree with you on Messi. All right, who wins the whole thing? Or I'm going to give you a chance. Give me your top two teams. Even you can give me your final four if you want, but the three or four teams that you think are going to be there when the real money's on the line.
All right, not knowing exactly the matchups, but I do think PSG, you've got to put them up there. I think they're one of the
Yeah.
they are the top team in the world, 100% after that Champions League final where they routed Inter Milan 5-0. So I've got PSG. I think River Plate out of Argentina is a team that is going to surprise people that may not know much about South American football. Obviously, a very, very big brand along with their rivals, Boca Juniors. Both of those clubs are in this tournament, but I think River Plate, the stronger side. So I'll say River Plate. From Brazil, I think Flamengo's an interesting
Yeah.
team. Palmeiras, another one. I'm going to say Palmeiras, which is in Inter Miami's group. I think those two teams will get out, and Palmeiras will move on to the Final Four. And listen, if Man City and PSG don't have to meet anywhere in the middle, you would think that Man City will be up for this. I think with not winning the Premier League, being dumped out of the Champions League, there are some big clubs where this is it. This is it. This is your trophy for 25. And I think Man City will be one of those clubs that will really go for it.
And final question, we'll get you out on this one. How many games are you going to take in 3 weeks?
Well, I know. Listen, hey, I'll go. You put me in a full stadium where the atmosphere is nuts. And that's my home base. Like I love that. So I'm based in Atlanta, Todd. So I'll be covering a lot of the matches here in Atlanta. There's several matches here, some big games here, and I'll be in Miami for the opener, and I'll be following Messi for as long as he's in this tournament. I'll be tracking him. So we'll see. The finals in New York. You may see me there as well.
Felipe Cardenas, we'll be reading all your great work on The Athletic as you cover this tournament, and we appreciate you joining us on This Sporting Planet.
Thank you, Todd.